This week we've been doing The Clone Wars. Trespass. We're back. What did you guys think? Terry, what did you think? Give me your in-depth review. Yeah?
In-depth? Fully? Whole review?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
fun.
you got to earn the bacon here.
What bacon?
I'm
bacon. You get bacon?
I'm Dr. Eviling, both of you. I've got your numbers and these red buttons. No, I mean, I've got buttons with your names on, and if you don't give me, fantastic Clone Wars reviews, you're going to like fall back on the chairs.
The chair's underneath, like there's like a hole that we fall through the floor.
Oh, does my beanbag come with me?
I'm still alive, I'm just very badly burned.
Can somebody help me?
No, we keep the beanbag.
Oh,
so
how
beanbag.
do I... Does it like slide me off?
It like opens up.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
the
then
beanbag opens
and then it
up.
reforms
Okay.
again afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, it like takes you in. You're like,
it.
like you're like crushed
Can't wait.
under the. Yeah.
Nice.
It's one of the
we'll
many
see if
things
that
we've got
happens.
sorted out in this flat.
Yeah. I tell you what, Tezza, could you give us a little recap of the episode and your thoughts on it, just so everyone who's listening is up to speed on what episode this is? This was the snowy episode.
This was the snowy episode, which was beautiful, by the way. So, Anakin and Obi-Wan go to a moon in a system owned by some blue people, and one of them looks like Blue Goblin rather than Green Goblin. And the Blue Goblin guy is like, this is our moon, because it's in our system. But then they find out that the clone troopers have been attacked, and also the droids have been attacked, and not by each other. And then they meet the Talz. And then the Talz, they make peace, and then they decide they don't want peace, and then they decide they do want peace, and it's all about how we should leave the indigenous people to their own planets.
It's a very Star Trek episode, isn't it?
It is. Which
And
I'm a big fan of, because I like Star Trek.
And I like when they meet new indigenous populations, and do you know what I mean, there's some sort of social issue that there's a dilemma to be solved that isn't necessarily black and white. I thought it was very interesting, and also I like that. I think this is the first time in canon they sort of join the larger world and sort of interact with the Republic. So like they're sort of known as savages before that point, and then they meet the Republic in this episode, and then you see them. You see one of their race in the cantina in episode 4.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that sort of we've gone back, like with the Ion Cannon, and sort of suggested like this is how that sort of stuff came about. This is how this race ended up in that cantina. This is how that Ion Cannon ended up on Hoth. Do you know what I mean? It's nice to constantly be sort of thinking that the Clone Wars series is as much prequels as the prequel trilogy.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's cool to get all more about these characters that we once saw in the bar all those years ago in A New Hope. We had with the Mandalorian, with the devil dude. I always forget his name.
I think the race is the Durg.
The Durg.
Which I love saying.
Yeah, fantastic. I just think it's really cool that we're getting to see those characters and seeing their worlds and getting fleshed out a bit more. Because then when you go back to watch New Hope, it's like, that's them. We know more about them now. That's why I want to see more of the grasshoppers, the giant grasshoppers. I wanna know what they're up to.
Oh yeah, what they're sitting in the bar.
Yeah, the giant grasshopper. Yeah, I want to know.
It's weird that because it came out in obviously 1977, they were just chucking whatever aliens they wanted in that cantina, and a lot of them might not have necessarily reappeared in the Star Wars universe. So it is weird, there's a devil in there and a praying mantis type, and none of these aliens are mainstays.
Well, it's because George Lucas. I remember him saying that that wasn't his original plans, some of the designs of the people, but they ran out of budget. So that's why there's a giant grasshopper and stuff, because it was whatever they can come up with. So when he initially see the footage of the Mos Eisley scene, he wasn't actually very happy with the designs of some of the monsters, which I think is interesting now that we're getting to see them more fleshed out and stuff.
Oh, I think they're very cute as well, the Talz.
Yeah,
even though they've got a bit of a grossy penisy face, but yeah. Suctiony, yeah.
Like a butterfly.
They've got mosquito heads.
Yeah.
Bare bodies.
Yeah. They remind me a bit with the multiple eyes and the little sucker thing of, the thing in Starship Troopers that comes out, the big fat gross thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he pulls up this and it's sucks in the guy's
gross.
Sucks out the guy's brains. Awful. One day, someone like me's gonna kill someone like you. I thank you. That was Matt Whittle's Starship Troopers. Tickets on sale now.
I'll buy
at
it.
the London Palladium.
I wouldn't.
Are you playing every character?
Well, because of COVID rules, yeah, I'm playing every character, and it's the only thing playing at the London Palladium. Yeah.
I would love to see Matt.
There's no audience. It's just Matt running around the Palladium.
Yeah. He's playing the aliens as well.
Yeah. I'm playing the bugs.
He's like making himself jump. Like
the only person who's returning from the original cast is Neil Patrick Harris playing his role. because you can't replicate Neil Patrick Harris.
It's true.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think after last week where it was all like flat savannah, this week there was a lot more depth. Like we were getting lots of like cool sweeping shots of ships arriving, and it definitely felt like this was far more of a world with inhabitants than it did last week. Last week it was a lot of like, do you know what I mean? Like flat kind of images, very boring. Like it felt like we were looking at the same angle of the savannah. Whereas this episode I thought drew you in way more, like seeing the droids all destroyed and wondering, what could have done this, and seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, only the most important character in the entire Star Wars saga, I've forgotten. Seeing them all dressed up like Han Solo and Hoth and going on a little detective mission was fantastic. It also reminded me a little bit of the old Captain Scarlets, when like Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue would be like the duo in like their snow gear and stuff, and they'd be going off to like some remote outpost, and the outpost would be like, oh, the Mysterons are here, or whatever.
I still haven't seen Captain Scarlet. I hadn't heard of it until you
Oh,
told me about
I'd love to binge it.
It's must watch. Yeah,
We should binge it.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Let's do it, and we'll review it on the podcast.
If
I think it would get like 1K views collectively.
It'd be James
all
Wan
a whole
only.
of it. Amazing. But yeah, I thought this episode was fun, and also it was a bit cartoony at first, with the general being just like so obviously like a racist caricature. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, we can't let these indigenous people blah blah blah. But I do think it was a nice. It went beyond just like the obvious route when he dies at the end. And to see him go out and go, oh, don't do all this, blah, 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 blah. Essentially trying to maintain that destructive bent with his people and the Talz. To see the Senator just go, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to broker peace. His whole, like, everything he's been working towards, he's like, no, and then he just dies. It's like, what a horrible way to go out for him. But of course he deserved it, because he was the one that created all the problem in the first place.
Yeah,
His death was just so pointless and meaningless because of what he did previously. Like, he died for nothing.
Yeah, he completely died in vain. And that, to me, I was like, that was very cruel, but not undeserved. And it was a nice way to take that character, because I thought it was gonna manifest in, he's like, like, I don't want to talk to these people, like, but I guess, Obi-Wan and Anakin are right. But yeah, no, it went off in a bit more of an interesting direction. But as episode plots stand, not the most interesting, was it?
Yeah, I did enjoy that scene when they'll attack the what are they called again? Sorry, the
Talz.
The Talz, and they sort of, you slowly but surely see his face as he realises, they got no chance against these guys as they're sort of circled off. That was really cool. Although I'm intrigued that you think this was much better than last week, because as much as I agree with you about the terrain of it, the look of it, I think I actually preferred last week in terms of, I feel like it had more meat, it had more character moments and more like interesting themes presented. Whereas this, I feel like was kind of, I feel like this one was kind of like, it was good. I think it was really fun. Like, for the action and that was really cool, and I like that character and how he goes out. But I feel like it felt like an extension of the last week of, seeing them apply what they kind of learned, what Anakin kind of learned. I know they're not connected because they're all out of order, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it felt, I understand why these two episodes were put next to each other, even if they're separate stories. Because I feel like they're quite similar thematically about, the pacifism of the Jedi. But yeah, I just felt like last week I just had a bit more, I don't really know what else to say other than, it was fun. Whereas last week I feel like I had a bit more to chew on with some of the character beats in the in the episode, regardless of.
Interesting.
See, I really disagree with that. I think that this week's story, I think last week there's only so far you can go with, oh, we're going to be stubbornly peaceful almost to our destruction, and then we're going to change our mind at last minute. Whereas this week is like, we're getting into stories, we're seeing the other side of stories that come from our history. We went across and took land from the indigenous people, but, our history books don't tell it like that, whereas these stories are told from the point of view of the indigenous people, which are stories that need to be told once again. And I thought that it was really interesting to see it done in space, and be shown like it's wrong to take those lands from these people. So I thought it was meatier than the whole we're going to be stubbornly peaceful thing.
But I feel like that it opened up like more to, like the themes and stuff of the Jedi than this episode did. Like maybe that I get what you're saying there in terms of the themes of like the world we live in general, but I liked that the last episode kind of felt that it was making the characters have a challenging sort of thought. What's the word? Like it made them question their own sort of morality. And I feel like this week, as much as it was cool seeing Anakin and that in it, I feel like they didn't really do that much. I feel like it was like it was more about the, like you said, the Talz and.
But I also think it's not the Jedi's place to go in and dominate and monopolize. Like, it's their job to go in and aid and to guide. And so, like, I think this episode shows Obi-Wan, particularly, and Anakin, like, doing their job correctly. And not go, when asked, can you go and negotiate for me, they didn't jump straight in there. Whereas I think in the last episode, it's very much, we're going to fight for you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, but I like how that posed the question of, like, the Jedi's issues.
But then last week, failings of the Jedi. This week, strengths of the Jedi.
Yes,
perhaps.
That's true. Yes,
I do also. I think both great points to be made, and I think both episodes have quite a lot to chew on. I think for me, what edges it out is I just thought the setting and the way the story was delivered last week and the week before, really, once we got to the Savannah planet, was quite bland. I felt like this episode, there was a lot more depth in the shots, and like when we were walking through the Talz village with Anakin and Obi-Wan, we saw like it from the perspective like up on high from the Talz, like down low, like through their like shoulders and stuff. Like there was just, and like as you say, Charlie, when they were getting attacked in the open center, it just felt like there was such a sense of speed from the Talz, and like like the action was just well composed. I just thought the planet made much better use of the animation. And I just enjoyed it more for that reason. It flew by much quicker.
Yeah, I do understand that. I think that's a valid point, and I do agree with you that the terrain did play a big factor in that. But I do feel like if you were to put that sort of terrain into the last episode, we'd be talking differently. I do, because I think that
I agree, but it was also the way it was shot,
of course,
not necessarily just the look of it.
Yes.
So if that had been brought into it as well, then yeah, perhaps.
Yes. I just feel like it was more for me as from a character perspective. I just really liked those last two. I quite liked seeing those weird eagle crawler things like attack them, and Anakin be the tension of Anakin being sort of trapped, and then they got to deal with this other issue, and then how that fed into the next episode. I mean, yeah, I think I just preferred those two. I did like this episode a lot, but I just feel like that I got given a little bit more character stuff, I guess, than this episode. Well, from the characters that I love, I guess.
We have to remember, we're kind of reaching like the middle of the season, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? Like we're nearing towards, the famous Ryloth 3-parter, which I think we're going to have a real blast with. I think we should do that as perhaps like one big review, do the 3-parter. Cool. But here we're kind of, if you're thinking about the placement of the show and how it's constructed,
yeah, it's true.
Ambush doesn't come in the middle because it's a great episode. That's why it's at the start. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this stuff is kind of like the middle of the road.
Yeah, you're right.
Someone I worked with once, who I won't name, in TV once said to me, "You want to start a pitch with your very best ideas, leave your kind of middle of the road ones like all in the middle, and then have one that's like also good just to finish off with, because then they'll end on a on a high, and they won't be even worrying about the middling ideas when you were losing them."
Well, I think that's true. I think if you give someone a great opening in a movie or a show or whatever, and then you finish it off, people are more forgiving of what happened in the middle as much. Whereas if you have a great opening, you have a dodgy middle, and then you don't tie it off in the end, or the other way round, if you have a great edit, not a very good opening, not a very good middle, but you have a great end.
Yeah.
People are more forgiving. It's like they forget. I feel like the ending, it's like people forget. If it's good ending, you forget of all the rest of the stuff. You come out, that was good. That was more satisfying, sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And like the first 10 minutes are so crucial, aren't they?
100%.
Do you want to put your best foot forward?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Otherwise, you might find yourself trespassing. That was Clone Wars.
Fantastic.